and accommodating, support them on that. And therefore, it should be very much straightforward. If okay, right, we've done our end of the bargain, you do yours, get the lease sorted. I know another cast member who isn't around this evening has said that they've got a site in Hillingdon, and they seem to allude to that they've been able to get a extension or some form of clarity regarding that site there. So they've got that security of tenure, and there's no reason then why they cannot, in this case, continue to give us the lease for a defined period of time. It's a total farce to me.
Yeah, it's hugely frustrating that it's very difficult to keep up with it all and understand what the reasons for this sort of delay is. Alex, do you see any reasons why this lease won't be signed, and what is they're trying to do to maybe move the goalposts? Because to me, especially, it was agreed in the summer, and we're no further forward.
Yeah, it was my understanding that everything was pretty much all signed and ready to go not too long ago, maybe not even the summer, maybe a couple of months ago, that it was all signed and ready, and then all of a sudden someone pulled out at the last minute. I'm assuming it's the bloke or the people that are giving us a fuss about the lease. So no, I don't know any reason that they can't give us it. I've no idea about much of it, to be fair. It's all very, very up in the air. It's all very, very confusing. So that's what the board's there for. That's what Rory's there for, to kind of sort all that stuff. But no, short answer, no. I have no idea what they're playing at.
No, it is hugely frustrating because we were buoyed by the news. In the summer we were buoyed by the news with the investment coming in. We'll talk about it in a moment. We've got into the first round of the FA Cup. We're going strong in the league, and you just hope that this isn't going to be such a Wheelstone thing where it all sort of falls apart. And from the long-term view of it, Dave, do you think that the investment group, with Nick be in the forefront of it, do you think that he might end up getting twitchy feet and go, or do you think that he's going to be happy to sort of stay and ride this one out as long as it takes for the lease to be signed?
I think it's hard to know, what he was told initially, or what he thought would happen initially, with the lease and how that would affect his investment. I think that if he always was under the impression that it was going to be not necessarily an easy thing to get over the line, it might be something that he's factored in already. But I mean, with us, we can only really speculate because we don't really know, and I don't know the conversations that they have at boardroom level. I don't know whether they're talking. I mean, I'm not saying I should do, but I don't know whether they could be signing it today. I mean, they could be in the middle of it now. So, I wouldn't really want to say anything that. Well, I mean, it would just be speculation. So, I mean, we just got to hope and wait for an announcement. I would say, that's the only thing I can think, really. And it is frustrating, especially as you say, the team is going really well in the league and in the cup. Looking in a really strong position this season. Looking to kick on, and I think they need that certainty, obviously, for the investment and for where they go next. So yeah, I mean, I'm probably just as frustrated as everyone, and and as to say, I know I don't really talk to anyone sort of at board level ever, so I wouldn't really know. So yeah, that's what I can say.
Yeah, it is a tough one because when you see the news come out in the summer, and you've got the local MP there, and you've got members of our board and members of the owners of the lease board being present at the Vale, you just think, how difficult it is all to put ink your signature onto a piece of paper there and then and move on. But clearly, there's slightly more involvement, the legalities of it, the ownerships, the payments, the terms, conditions are all very, I should imagine, fluid to a point until they're actually agreed. So let's just hope that those that are on the board and those that are involved in the signing of this lease, if we can get it done in the next couple of days, which it was a promise, that would be a fantastic thing just prior to the FA Cup game coming up at the weekend. But I think I think you're right, Leo. let's just hope that the extension of the exclusivity period goes on, and we can just sort of safely say between now and maybe Christmas, if it that continues, and we can be sort of settled as a club, both on and off the field. But
quick question for you, Paul, and I guess for everyone else, just curiosity on this one. It's a conversation I've had behind the scenes. Is were we a bit naive to have that thing with Nick Samaka and that EGM before the lease was signed? Because it now gives KSIMC all the leverage. They know that there's potential investment coming in and it's riding on this lease being signed. Don't know what everyone's thoughts are, but yeah, just something to consider.
It's a really hard one here because, as a set of fans, and we're no different to anyone else. We want good news to come out of the club. We want information to come out of the club. We want to be told about things that are happening. So, were they naive? Possibly, but it was such a good news story that they probably felt, right, this is exactly what we've been wanting for however many years. In the last few years, we've done amazingly well to get into the National League, improve the Vale, get the new ground off the ground, the new stadium off the ground, and this is just that next piece. So, yeah, it's difficult, Lee, because if they hadn't announced anything, we'd be sitting here now at the end of October going, well, what the hell's happening with the lease? What the hell's happening with investment?
Yeah.
We know investments come in.
I guess the club had to do the EGM, right? Because Nick needed that assurance as soon as possible around having the changes to the Articles of Association. So completely get both sides. It's just it's kind of put us between a rock and a hard place, unfortunately.
I suppose it's one of those, isn't it? Because you've got so many shareholders, because of the way that it's been done over the years through the fan ownership, that you can't really not keep it a secret, but you can't keep it on the lowdown because you've got a certain amount of shareholders who have to be present to pass this motion. So, yeah, listen, I think it's been great for the club in terms of that good feel factor, the fillip that it's given the club. But you just hope it doesn't dampen it because we just haven't had that lease signed. But as fans that sit here in the dark and speculate and hope for the best, we can just hope that maybe next few days that this is resolved. It probably, as Dave said, they're probably sat around hopefully around a boardroom table now signing it off, rather than them maybe waiting for this to come out on Spotify. And we'll have a lease signed by the weekend. But if not, we will move on and talk about weekends, and we talk about last weekend, and we'll talk about the review of the game in a moment in terms of that win against Sutton United. But one thing that did come out of the back of that game was a little bit of a storm in the teacup, I suppose, around players' reaction to the reaction of the fans at half time. Now we saw us win 4-2 after being 2-0 down. I think we all agreed that it was a bit of an indifferent first half, to say the least. Where do you stand, guys, in terms of how we as fans would approach a set of players? And we'll talk about our set of players at the moment. And how would you see the set of players reacting to that, as we saw from Max Kretschmar at the end of the game, who seemed quite incensed by some of the sort of encouragement they were probably given at half time? Yeah, what do you think?
I'll let Dave and Alex go, and then I'll put
go on then.
Thoughts.
I don't mind. I'll go.
Go on, Dave.
I've got to be honest, I wasn't at the game on Saturday. I had a social engagement I had to attend, but I've kind of heard about it. I think the thing with Wealdstone, and I mean, I can remember when I went to watch Wealdstone as a kid, the fans always have something to say, and I'd say more so. I mean, I've watched other local teams in the area that have kind of gone by the wayside now, that have kind of dropped and only get like 100 fans watching them. But I kind of think that it's always been a bit of a spiky crowd down at the Stones, and there's always been people that have, offered an opinion on what's going on, and it's just part of the tradition. I kind of think that it's I mean, as long as it doesn't get personal, as long as it's not abusive. And if people are just reflecting on the game and mistakes that are being made, then, and if the players kind of give it back and it isn't particularly, personal or abusive, I kind of think it's part and parcel of the game. And, I think to kind of dwell on it, to sort of demonise people because of it, I just think it's a bit of wasted energy, really, and that's just my view.
Yeah, I think just going on the back of Dave's point, it's so key. Context is so key, because straight after the game, I obviously had my own game and I was on there and I heard about it and I had my opinion on it, but I don't know what was said. So I can't, going off the back of what Dave said, there's a line that you cross, right? So as supporters, you pay your money to come see your team. You're entitled to an opinion. It's a passionate sport. You feel you're involved, especially with a club like Wealdstone. You feel that you're very much involved. You feel like you are someone. So arguably, in comparison to other clubs and to other fan bases, we feel that we're a bit more connected in a way. That's just my opinion. So you're completely entitled to your opinion, as to giving that to the players, to the managers, whoever it may be. But you can't step over that line to insulting, abusive, where it's maybe directed at someone. Oh God! But it's context is key. Context is key. We don't know what was said. However, even if in the case of that, I think what Max done after the game, that's just a no-go. That's just a no-go zone. And I know I'll get pelters for this, but bringing it back to refereeing, we get abuse from the sidelines, from spectators all the time. We can't go and turn around and tell them, I don't know if you're allowed to swear on here, but you can't go around and tell them to fuck off, because that's just a no-go zone. Because they're paying their fee to be there. Yes, they shouldn't say what they say, but there's things that we should do as players, as shareholders in the game. We can't then go and say that to spectators, because they're the ones paying the money. We're the ones taking the money out at the end of the day. So it's almost like a show. So that's my opinion on it. So there's ways to go about it. Don't know what was said, but even if that person had crossed the line with what they'd said, the way that Max went about it was wrong.
See, I disagree on Max. The idea that he couldn't go over it and speak to a supporter afterwards and have a rational conversation. I think Max probably he's sensible enough not to lose his head over it. You don't want to do what Matt Saunders did at Kidderminster a couple of years ago. That was just no good for all parties concerned. I think it's a total storm in a teacup from both sides. Like Dave said it. Games at Edge, where when I was a young kid in the late 90s, it was, you just remember the sheds and that gates from the main stand onto the pitch. If the Stones were playing badly, the team would get absolute pelters. And I mean, it was quite vociferous in terms of the what was being said. I totally agree. Don't get personal. Who does that benefit? But absolutely, supporters are right to be able to say it's nowhere near good enough. You need to up your game. And I think to be fair, Max, if that was the case, he'd take on the chin and say, yes, we know we're not good enough. Because I think probably from what has been said on social media afterwards, probably something a bit more personal was said. If that's the case, it's crossing the line. But ultimately, just it's a mountain out of a molehill. It's nothing. Don't just let it go. That's me. Yeah, I was okay with Max going back to the supporter. I'm okay with supporters having a go at the team if they're not good enough. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree, Leo. I think I was commentating on the game, so I had no idea how I'd come down at the end of the game, and I was waiting to leave the ground, and I was stood in that corner, and I saw the reaction that Max was portraying towards the fans, and I just felt that in that moment it probably wasn't needed, that reaction. I get that there's been some suggestion of advice, abuse, encouragement given them that he was not clearly welcoming. But we just won the game 4-2 and yes, we didn't play well in the first half, but we played really well in the second half. Everyone's buoyed. We're sitting nicely in the middle of the table. Just smile enjoy the crowd giving you a little bit of adulation in that moment, and then privately deal with it afterwards. I mean, to do it in front of everybody else, to then cause almost that, well, what the hell's that all about situation, which then brings around conversations on WhatsApp group, etc. I think, it could have just been dealt with differently. As I say, there is context. We don't know what was said, but even if we don't know what was said, personally, I don't think you need to deal with it in that moment. We've all turned around and, someone said Max is sensible enough not to cross the line. I'd also like to think Max or any other player is sensible enough to pick their moment as to when to deal with it. And I think coming off the field in front of everybody after we've won the game probably isn't the time to do it, personally. But yeah, address it afterwards, and hopefully, you shake hands, you move on, and it's fish and chip paper for in the future. So yeah, I think it didn't sully what happened on Saturday, but it's just frustrating that after such a good second half, especially, that kind of gets spoken about. So, listen, we all enjoy passion from players. We like the fact that they're trying to give 100% for the club that they're playing for, especially for someone like Wealdstone, because that's the sort of the cornerstone of what we expect from players. But it just felt like it was slightly unnecessary in that moment, and it detracted a little bit from maybe what we were sort of looking at in terms of a good comeback win. So
I think it's a kind of a bit of a case of a two wrongs don't make a right. We're in a case that spectator or that supporter was in the wrong, but you going and doing that just escalates it. It's like a kind of shouting match. If someone's shouting and you start shouting, it's only going to increase. It's only going to go up. There's ways to go about it. So
I'm going to play devil's advocate here, though, because the reason why I don't think it's an issue is if a player scores a goal and they celebrate and they cut the ears to supporters, maybe they've been getting abuse during the game. What's made about that? Absolutely nothing. Likewise, if does shush
your own supporters,
you see it quite often, where they'll cut the ears to say I've been getting stick. That's where it is, and again, nothing's made about it. So I just don't see how this is really any different.
I think that's something, in my opinion, anyways. I think something would be made of that. I think it's a kind of similar situation, because you're saying that the supporters, something's been said, they're obviously getting backlash. I think that it's important to remember that spectators, they're the ones putting the money in.
Agreed.
They're the ones at the end of the day, to an extent, paying the wages, paying them. They're paying to see the show. Then the players and other shareholders are there to perform. And if the performance isn't good, then obviously they're entitled to their opinion. But the players and the shareholders have to allow that. It's just that's just how it goes. That's just part of the show. So to go and you're pretty much saying, doing that, you're pretty much saying, quiet down. I don't need to hear your opinion. That's pretty much what they're saying, in my opinion. So I think that, as Paul said, there's other ways to go about it if the line was stepped over. If it wasn't, then obviously
Storming a teacup. I'm going to say that.
Again. Well, hey, listen. Well, we'll move on from that. Let's talk about distractions, right? Okay, that's a slight. We've had another slight distraction this week, chap. I don't know how you feel about it. I know that it's polarized opinion on the StonesCast WhatsApp group and maybe some other WhatsApp groups. Our esteemed leader Sam Cox has decided to go back into the Ballers League as an assistant manager to United under Angry Ginge. Now, these happen on the Monday night. These five-a-side games that happen on a Monday night live on Sky. So Coxy's there; he can be seen. I think I even saw today, someone witty Scunthorpe fan said, "Oh, is that the Wealdstone manager? Is he gonna let his team carry on in the second half?" The dry wit of someone from Scunny. So, is it a distraction, chaps? Personally, I don't think it is. It's a Monday night. He's not involved with Wealdstone on the Monday. He knows what he's doing. As much as he's doing that on his free time, we're sitting here talking about Wealdstone for an hour on his free time. So we all have our own choices. What's your feelings around Coxy being involved with Angry Ginger and United FC in the Ballers League?
I've absolutely no problem with it whatsoever. I think that there's another example. Robbie Savage is at Forest Green Rovers, and I think they're full time, aren't they? And he does 6:06 on Saturday night, and then he's doing commentary on games in the week. I think that as long as whatever you're doing isn't impeding your coaching, I can't see it being a problem. On a Monday night. I mean, I don't know I don't know the days of the week that our team train, but if it's say a Monday morning, then it's going to have no impact on anyone that he's going across London to the Copper Box on a Monday night for 3 or 4 hours. I can't see it being a problem really. If anything, it's probably quite good publicity because the name Wealdstone get mentioned a few times on Sky while he's managing, and he's good. He's a good media person as well. I think he always speaks really well. So I think he'll probably show the club in a really good light. Being on one of the biggest sports channel in the country, and probably get interviewed here and there. And I don't see a problem myself at all.
That's fair enough. This I'll be a little bit more. I'm just more concerned about the clobber he wears on a Monday or on the sidelines, let alone the fact that he's actually there. So, but yes, Leo, what are your thoughts?
Same as Dave's. It's not an issue. I say it's a night off for him. We do train on a Monday morning. I think we train on a Tuesday morning as well. Okay, I think the optics will look bad if the club's performances and the results start to really deteriorate whilst this is ongoing, because it would then be seen as a distraction compared to what it should be his main priority, which is on Wealdstone. I think that's the case anyway, so that's why I don't see it being an issue. Had the player been involved, that's a different story, because again, that's where the risk of injuries and everything else kicks in. And I'm pretty sure you'd like to think the contracts that the players were signed in the summer prohibit them from doing so. So I don't want a fiasco of Alex Dyer and Adrian Mariappa like last year, where we've got somebody playing this time round. But for Coxy to do it, good on him. Dave's right, he's articulate. He always gets his point across well. I think less so on Sky, probably more so on YouTube if you're looking for a younger demographic, because it's free on there. So again, even though it's Wealdstone, I don't think you're going to get any people coming in off the back of it. But hey, maybe they'll surprise me.
I mean, one of the positives of him doing it last year and it bore fruit on Saturday as an example is, he went and found Sat Hassan playing #United, a few leagues below, saw him in the Ballers, whether he knew of Sat before, but saw him in the Ballers League, off the back of the Ballers League. He's come and played for Wealdstone, and the young lad's improving all the time. A little bit of a project for Coxy and the club, but there may be another one or two gems that Sam will probably identify, hopefully, in terms of something that can bolster the squad. So that there's a positive there, and I think you're right, Leo. A different kettle of fish of his players. I know he's not exactly the most strenuous exercise when it comes to football, but there is that potential for distractions and injuries. So no, I quite agree. I think a management is just a completely different issue. So good luck to Coxy and United, and see how they get on. But I mean, Alex, do you have any thoughts on it, or is it very similar to what we're suggesting?
When I first found out about it, because I was under the assumption that we were hybrid in the way that Sam Cox was full time, but apparently I'm wrong on that. So I think if he was full time, then obviously I think that takes precedent, and I don't think he should be doing kind of extracurricular activities, if you want to call it. But no, part time, fair game. It's not really much, is it? I mean, it's a bit of a joke. The whole league and the whole of it is just like a kind of comedy TV show of what I understand. So, I think he's just there for show. I don't think it's actually any coaching at all. I mean, what was it, 3v3 or 5v5, something like that? You may as well go down and watch Luca down at Power League on a Wednesday night, standing in goal. That's pretty much the standard of it. Probably Luca's the higher standard even. So yeah, no, it's just I don't think anyone really cares.
There's a quick shout out if anyone does want to go and watch Luca play on a Wednesday night at Goals in Rice. Go down there. I'm sure they appreciate the stick. As And as long as it doesn't cross the line, I think we'll be all right. Anyway, talking about distractions and probably nonsense. So the last little bit of topic before we do review the football matches that Wealdstone have played in or are going to play in is the DAZN 12 Days of Football coming at Christmas. Now, our game has been moved again versus Halifax. Not DAZN's fault the first time, but obviously this time it's a Sunday 4:00 kickoff. The weekend before Christmas. So, I mean, we can have our thoughts on that also. But, I mean, what are your general thoughts on this 12 days of Christmas where, you know, another example, I think, of York got to go to Truro on a stupid time on a Friday or something. You know, there's just incredible fixtures for National League teams and their supporters to have to navigate the week before Christmas. And for a TV channel that I don't suppose they're going to peak in viewership, but there you go. So, you know, chaps, tell me what. Have a rant if you wish. Tell me what you think about the DAZN's 12 Days of Football that is due to come up not next month after in December.
I'm just looking at that. They're not thinking of the fans, and it's not just not thinking of the fans. We're not the Football League. I don't get the impression that there's as much money from television going into the National League from DAZN as what there is going into the Football League from Sky. I don't know whether we're losing a lot of support from some of their coverage. You know, moving games like this is putting people off going to away games. I kind of think that the midweek games as well that we're playing away from home is affecting our away crowd because people are just, you know, downloading the game and watching it as opposed to going. I think that, you know, there's been no thought about this because obviously Wealdstone have had this fixture moved now a couple of times. You know, it was going to be our second game of the season, wasn't it, at Halifax? And people made plans. They spent money to go to Halifax, which is probably our favourite away ground, one of our favourite away days of the season. Then that got swapped to the home game, moved again to 20th of December. So I'm imagining a lot of people have gone to get cheap tickets in advance, you know, for this. And to suddenly bring this in, to mess all these fixtures up, when people are probably, I would imagine there's probably quite a lot of fans up and down the country have bought their train tickets in advance, you know, or have made arrangements with friends or have put off other social engagements, and to have them all messed up like this, I just think it's really bad. You like to think that the hierarchy of the league will start saying something about it because, you know, I don't see it helping anyone. I mean, us playing at Halifax at 4:00 on a Sunday afternoon, if there's no coach running, I mean, how many people are going to go? You know, I mean, I don't know. I mean, 40, 50 maybe tops. But, you know, it's just before Christmas and it's going to be on a Sunday. I just think I think that DAZN are just not really thinking of the fans and that are actually physically going. And I think more so in the National League, it is about going. And I think that when you start getting away from that, with clubs with relatively small followings, you're left with no one there. So yeah, I find it really frustrating.
It kind of sounds like broken record though. Like how many times, the amount of times I listen to StonesCast and every single week I'm not saying I disagree. I'm just saying that the league and the zone never ever think about fans. I don't think there's any surprise from anyone. The EFL, Sky Sports, TNT, it's all about money. So there's absolutely no surprise. It's obviously as ridiculous as it is. Potentially a step too far. You know, 4:00. Why Halifax versus Wealdstone? It's the most stupidest thing. But you know, we're going around in circles. Really, you know, we're going to say it every single time, and it will only get worse. It will only get worse that these games will start being put on Thursday nights and Friday nights, and there'll be Tuesday nights and Monday night games. It's only going to get worse from here. So, you know, it's kind of like it's not very much you can do about it. I'm assuming the clubs get a bit of money from TV rights. I'm hoping, anyways. I think at the very least, the least that they can do is make it a free up, free down. If we're getting sent to all these places on, well, I say I'll get a bit of pelts for that because I don't go, but you know, getting sent to all these places on a Thursday and a Friday, and whenever they can send us, then the least they can do is that. But as we all know, they won't do that either. So they'll pretty much do what they want. So it's you know, it's a pointless conversation.
Free down is never going to happen. There's no way the EFL are going to allow that to happen. It's like
I think it's hilarious how they put it to the league above to vote. Just like, would you like an extra space to go down?
Yeah.
Well, no. Oh, there's a shock. Why would anyone want that?
I think there's a fair call out in terms of the governance of the National League as well. You know, there's so many things that come across as incredibly incompetent, and unfortunately, they are just reliant on the broadcasting money, aren't they? So the zone kind of dictate terms here, and everyone's got to play by that tune. It's a fast ball, absolute fast. You know, Alex says Sunday 4:00. Well, Sky are going to have a Premier League game on. Oh no, hang on. I'm going to bin that off. I'm going to go on to Zone, pay £10. I'm going to watch Halifax against Wealdstone. I mean, give me a break.
And
it's a joke.
I agree. And no disrespect to Wealdstone and Halifax, both doing respectively well in the league. At 4:00 on the same Sunday, you got Boreham Wood playing Carlisle United, who are both going for the playoffs for the championship. So if you are such a non-league nut, are you going to look and think, I'll watch Wealdstone, Halifax, or possibly Boreham Wood, Carlisle? I know it's a choice, but it's not like we're exclusively on at 4:00. And you got to look at that. And we talk about the fans, and yes, the fans should be at the centre of everything, because without the fans, the football is nothing. We saw that during COVID, and that's mentioned a number of times over the years. But look at the football clubs. You know, Halifax, instead of having 300, 400, 300 potentially Wealdstone fans going to be there, got 50. You know, they're not having people through the door spending money. Carlisle having to travel to Boreham Wood on at 4:00 on a Sunday.
Yeah.
Truro having to go to York City. York City, we knew how bad York was to get to in November with the Christmas markets. They've got to go to York the weekend before Christmas for a 5:30 kickoff.
Crazy.
The best one, Paul, is easily got to go to Gateshead at 2:00 on Sunday. And I'm pretty sure the last train that gets back to Southampton is at like 3:30. So of course, if you go in, you've got to stay the night. You're screwed. And again, like Dave says, it's where fans are totally out of pocket. I'm looking now thinking, if I get the train to Halifax, I'm going to probably go on the Saturday, which then means probably a hotel in Leeds or somewhere else, and then getting the train to Halifax on the Sunday, traveling back, and then having to take Monday off work because of the whole day of travel. And let's be honest, I don't do Halifax sober, so.
It's all right, Leo. It's all right, Leo, because you can pay a tenner to DAZN and watch it from the comfort of your sofa. You know, it just smacks of just poor plan. I mean, it'd be interesting to know, and I don't know if any one of us will ever be privy to it, is what are the clubs being weighed in to have? And I know we don't have a say in it as football clubs, but what are they being weighed in to make that inconvenient change to the fans and to their financials in terms of people actually getting through the door to watch them? There's got to be some sort of benefit to it, but who knows? Because we're never privy to that, are we? So
we'll find out next season, won't we? Because if the numbers are abysmal like we think they're going to be, there's no way there's only going to have that same idea next year, because it's just been negative responses across the board from all stakeholders, clubs, supporters. I'm sure players are particularly too happy about this either if they've got plans running up to Christmas. And we haven't even started yet. What about before Christmas? It's quite likely there's going to be certain train lines that are going to be closed. So rail replacement bus services, if you're getting the train up there, there's loads of these games, they're not exactly down the roads, and people are going to travel by public transport where they can. It's just, again, no consideration, total farce. And I think all being well, it's going to be a one and done thing, and it won't be around next season.
Well, let's hope so anyways. But, I mean, everyone can always watch the first half an hour before Villa United is on at 4:30. So at least we'll be seeing for the first half hour of that. It has benefited some, to be fair, because I think Rio's on holiday.
He's the one person who's got out of this.
Well, and me as well, because I've got a game on the Saturday, so it means that I can go up on the Sunday. So it benefits the scum like us, that the part timers, I think we're called. Benefits some, but yeah, no, it's all just a joke, and it's only going to get worse. But I think you make a valid point in that if they're getting no viewers, they're not making any money out of it. They'll flog it off. They're making money through the boxing anyways, and so hopefully they can fuck off with that.
But as much as we love Wealdstone, we love the National League, we have got to put this in perspective. It is the National League, not the Premier League. I get them doing it in the Premier League and the EFL. It is the National League, and we have a hardened, loyal fan base of the National League and National League teams. But how that translates to making money through television, I think you're right, Alex. It's a pie in the sky idea that we're all going to have to suffer it for this season. Hopefully next season onwards it won't carry on. But talk about 3 up, 3 down. Apparently it was put to the House of Commons today, and Keir Starmer agreed that it should be looked at. So hopefully our fine PM has now put his oar in that it might be sort of looked at. But who knows? I saw that today, and the other thing aren't the players not starting? The kickoff is going to be delayed in one of the games coming up to sort of promote the 3 up, 3 down.
Hartlepool away, 3:03 p.m. Yes,
3:03 p.m. Yeah, so we're delaying the kickoff. So, wow, the National League doesn't.
The great thing here, Paul, is if it had been at the Vale, we wouldn't have had to intentionally delay the game because it never kicks off at 3 p.m. anyway. So we could have had it at 3:03 like we normally do. Wouldn't have been an issue.
Yeah, no, you're right. 3:03 against Hartlepool. The kickoff will be delayed in support of the 3 up, 3 down campaign that was raised in the House of Commons today. And we'll see how that goes. And that'll probably be a discussion for a StonesCast in the future as maybe that campaign ramps up for another season and dies a death before the end of it. But let's talk about something more positive. So we've had our two penneth around Ballers League and Shushgate and DAZN's 12 Days of Christmas, and what else is there? I can't remember. It's gone out of my head now. We've talked about so much. Let's talk about the games that we've between us we've seen. We've recently have played York City away. Our ex-manager Stuart Maynard. We entertained Nottingham Forest under 21s in National League Cup last week, and Saturday just gone, we played Sutton United in the National League. So, Leo, in terms of the games that you've seen, how have you seen the fortunes of the Stones, the players, the way they've played over the last week or so?
Yeah, I was at York, and even in October, Paul, it's still a nightmare to get from the city centre to the grounds. Doesn't matter what month it is. It's a right pain to do it. I guess brave is the first word you'd say to summarise how we set our stall outs for that game. Why we were playing such a ridiculously high line against the York sides that's ultimately going to be better footballers and better technical players than us. Brave, but then naive and really stupid at the same time, because you look at York since then, drew against Bournemouth, drew against Halifax, two teams that are far more defensively solid, will allow York to have the ball played in front of them. And of course, we were just trying to go toe-to-toe. It could, to be fair, could have probably paid off in the first 15 minutes. Omar Musa had that chance where he nicked the ball off Alex Hunt and totally skies it, and you're thinking, that's maybe the one then. And they score, and I don't know what it is with the Stones this year. You'd think for such a tall side at the back defensively, I'd love to know how many goals you can see this from corners and set pieces, because it seems a ridiculously high number, bearing in mind the height of the side at the back. And it was, a second or third phase of play that across led to their first goal. And of course, then York started to get their confidence. We were naturally tiring, because we just couldn't sustain that press and that ridiculously high line for 90 minutes. Obiero, I still think, was onside, which would have made it 2-1. Probably still would have lost the game 4-1. There's no way we were going to win that game, but it probably does possibly changes the outcome of it in terms of maybe it's 3-1 in the end, 4-1 rather than 4-0 and a real drubbing in the second half. Second half, I just felt for the lads, they were toast. Kadji was running on empty at the end. and it probably then had an impact when it came to playing Forest under 21s on the Tuesday. I wasn't there. I'll let Dave lead on that one. But yeah, brave, naive, and I like to think if we play a side like that, so when we play Rochdale at like April time, for goodness sakes, do not do that again. Be a bit more, streetwise when it comes to laying out your stall.
I mean, Leo, do you think Coxy would have learned from that, seeing that, and maybe not adopt that attitude or the way of playing against the likes of Rochdale or Forest Green going forward?
No idea. He did it probably thinking there's something to gain off it, and you may well think the same when we come to playing Rochdale. I think Sam's got his style of football, hasn't he? He's not going to deviate away from that at all. But again, that's where he's got his coaching staff. Be a bit more practical here. I'd like to think, yes, it's maybe a lesson learned. And like I say, especially with sides like Rochdale, if Carlisle are going to be playing the ball on the ground when you go there at the start of January, just be a bit more savvy. Fingers crossed. I couldn't answer the question. Sorry, sitting on the fence there.
We know Coxy is a coach and has been a coach under Ange Postecoglou. So whether there was a little bit of the way that he felt that the sort of he's seen the way Ange dealt with the Tottenham first team, but it was brave. It didn't work out. I mean, there positives to come from the game, Leo? And I don't know, Alex, did you go to the game at all? I know, was there positives to take, Leo, from it, even though it was 4-0? Aside from being brave, and could you see there was things there that would be useful for the rest of the season?
Well, Obiero scored, like I said, what I thought was a perfectly good goal, and I mentioned it on the last cast, and so apologies for being on two episodes in a row, but he you can tell he's massively gained a whole bunch of confidence, a bit similar to the 22-23 player, and I think him playing genuinely as a striker rather than out as a winger, I think he's really thriving under that setup. So that was a positive. And again, first 15 minutes, York were really struggling to get the ball out of their own half. And if they were, then of course that high line was just going straight through to Dante Baptiste. So if you could sustain it for 90 minutes, yes, there's absolutely positives to take. But again, knowing the limitations and the budget restrictions and the caliber of players we can bring in, of course, I wouldn't have done it myself. But there's always you can always take positives. I just think, we were just too naive, Paul.
That's fair. Go on, Dave.
Just say about that York game. I didn't go. I followed it on social media, and I made a point of watching the highlights just before we came on tonight of that and the Sutton game. And the one thing I noticed about that York game, as you say, Leo, Wealdstone created some good chances in the first 15 minutes. Suddenly you go 1-0 up at York, a team that's doing well but not brilliantly. That changes things, suddenly they're under pressure. And I think that, the fact that we didn't put one of those 3 really good chances in the first 15 minutes, when they did go 1-0 up, it changed the complexion of the game. And, they scored again not long afterwards. But, I think sometimes those kind of away games might be the best idea. I mean, it might be the best idea to go up there and just go for it because, as you say, if you do get that early goal, the fans suddenly sometimes, change. They start murmuring and not happy. The home team gets a bit frustrated. So, I think sometimes these games can change on. It was, like you said, there was one chance that was skied. There was a couple of other really good chances that we could have scored in them first 15, 20 minutes. And I just think sometimes it doesn't hurt to gamble and try and get a result at a ground where you probably going to likelihood you're going to lose anyway because they're a stronger side.
The only downside to going for it,
I kind of understand. I understand his thinking, and maybe naive, but is it? What would have happened anyway? Would we be good enough to have withstood the pressure for the whole game? I don't know. I think we've been quite open this season, haven't we? I mean, we got 24 goals scored, 24 conceded. We've been quite an attacking side, really. I don't know how these things work, but our goals per game must be as high as it's been in this division, I would have thought. And we're taking it to teams, and maybe that's why we're doing so well this season because we are being a little bit more adventurous.
Just me. The only downside to going for it is, and this is just me personally, is I hate having a negative goal difference. And of course, you're accustomed to it at Willstone, and the idea of when you're getting pelted and you add a +2 and you then go to a -2. Of course, I'm coming away from that game thinking, well, that's it. We're not even going to get back to 0 at any point in this season. That's us toast. Yeah, I mean, if you play it safe and you lose 2-1, okay, you still got a positive goal difference. I mean, semantics, totally appreciate it, but that's me.
Blimey, Leo, that is, yeah. I mean, I genuinely, I don't think I've ever looked at goal differences. I'd only look at it if it became down to maybe the difference between going up, going down, because your points are the same.
It's nice to have. That's all it is. Yeah, it doesn't mean anything for us because, well, it might do if we're in a relegation battle later on this season. We're not going to be challenging for the playoffs. So, but yeah, where we are at the minute.
The best thing is if it comes down to goal difference, Scunthorpe are fucked because they didn't get the goal they scored against us. So that would be really quite amusing. So
and also had to go to Eastleigh for that rearranged fixture to then they drew again, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly.
I did laugh. I did laugh at that. I couldn't help myself.
But there you go. So, Dave, I understand you're our National League Cup under-21 correspondent at the Vale on Tuesday. Last Tuesday, was it?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
In the week, we did succumb to a loss. Not done too badly in the National League Cup this season, to be fair, Willstone. I know we put out a fairly strong side because of the squad size, etc. But how was the game, Dave? And was there any sort of standouts? Anyone that we would consider to be looking at from that starting 11 that we don't really know about?
We played a new goalkeeper, Grasic. And I don't think he really did anything. Didn't do anything really wrong. But at the same time as that, you couldn't immediately see that he was going to take Baptiste's place. He didn't have a bad game, but there wasn't any. I wouldn't say there was any really outstanding moments. Also, Jack Cook went off injured quite early, which was a bit frustrating. Must have been for him, was for us as well, as supporters. I thought the kind of lacked a bit of physical presence. We didn't have Chiendu playing. We didn't have Woodman. Nathan Young Coombs was playing centre forward. I think it was generally felt it was an opportunity for him to, show what he could do. I kind of feel a little bit sorry for him because, he's going into a team there that's had a lot of team changes. I don't think he got any service really. We didn't really create an awful lot. We got the ball out wide, but didn't really seem to trouble them at all. And I think the general consensus around me was that Nottingham Forest were actually really good. They went down to 10 men, I think, with about 25 minutes to go, and then scored a second goal. I think that it wasn't a good game. The thing is with that competition, every game I've been to at the Vale to watch it, they've been quite exciting encounters, quite end to end, quite open. Because it's a cup tie, it has to be won on the night. They're quite good games. But I just didn't really think we got a foothold in the game. I think it's disappointing for some of the squad players because I think that the new fella, Ajimang, the guy we got from Morecambe, he had one or two good touches. But, at the end of the day, you want to win games like that to get in the manager's good books. So, it was a bit of a shame. I think it's difficult for squad players in matches like that because you've changed your team around, so you're not getting to play with the regular first 11. It's just a bit mix and match. So, yeah, none of you missed anything.
That was the long and short of it. Yeah, none of us missed any. Listen, hats off to those that do go because it's not everyone's cup of tea. But we do get to see some youngsters from Premier League sides. We see some of our squad players. It's good for players who are injured. Unfortunately, Jack Cook was coming back after not playing a couple of times and has got injured. So hopefully he's not going to be out too long. But we moved our attentions from the under-21s National League Cup to a league game on Saturday at the Vale against Sutton United, who at the time had only won 1 out of 15. They had a new manager. They'd scraped past Farnham Town in the FA Cup after replay. So we were going into that encounter at the Vale with a little bit of optimism that something could happen and do well for us, Alex. And Were you there? Were you refereeing in somewhere else, or
I was actually refereeing.
you were refereeing, Alex?
I might be the first StonesCast attendee to have attended 0 out of the 3 games, but I did watch their full highlights on.
Oh, that's all right then, Alex.
So
yeah.
pretty much saw it all.
Well, I mean, listen, the one thing I can say about it, I was on commentary duty for the club, DAZN. It was my turn this week, and I genuinely thought I was going to be in for a really good game. And that first half was probably one of the hardest halves of football to commentate on because neither team actually wanted to keep hold of the ball.
Yeah.
So I was constantly just moving from one team to the other, back to the other, back to the other, and and coupled with that, a couple of disastrous goals, wasn't there, Leo, in that first half? I would suggest disastrous goals from their perspective as well. The goal we got to get back in the game, good passage of play, but I think it was very naive from them. So, how did you see that first half encounter? And we can talk about the second half because it literally was a game of 2 halves.
Interesting your synopsis, because I actually thought Sutton played some half decent stuff in that first half. I think I tweeted on Sunday saying it was a carbon copy of the fixture we had against them the previous season, where they were pressing really high, causing us to make mistakes, and we'll get on to Georgiou's absolute clanger in a minute. But even after that, when they were 1-2 up, there was these like really nice 1-2 touch bits of passing. They were opening us up. Lewis Simper, Kai Jennings, who they've got on loan for Wimbledon, I thought was very impressive. He took his goal well, but his movement was causing us problems. And I think the lack of midfield depth, I called out in the last cast. We need somebody in there. It's clearly evidence that we are, and Dave said a couple of times, we are open. We are open, absolutely. But you can be far more resolute with a bit of, again, pragmatism and having a midfielder in there that can actually try and break up play. But yeah, I think one of the things I speak to my dad about, and he'll say we often disagree on most things when it comes to Wealdstone. But one thing I do agree with him on, is that I think there's a perception is because Sutton are bottom, the expectation is we should be getting 3 points. And it doesn't matter how they play. And I thought they played pretty well in the first half. They played better in that first half than a lot of teams have done at the Vale this season. But because they're bottom, of course, that's what led to the instant correction at half time. There's people around me going, "Oh, you just get him off. You're not bloody good enough." Blah blah blah. But if like I say, if York had done that and they were doing that 1-2 touch stuff, no one would bat an eyelid. It's like, oh, it's York. Therefore it's expected. Fair enough. Masters of our own downfall. I mean, Georgiou, twice. I mean, the 2 mistakes that led to the first goal. And to be fair, a bit unlucky in terms of clearing it out, because I know Sam Cox said you have to clear it. You'd maybe argue clear it out for a throw-in rather than if there's someone charging you down. Therefore you avoid that incident happening. The second goal, I think, is even worse. Though, I mean, that's even more egregious because whilst it's a nice through ball, he's totally ball watching the player and he doesn't realise the guy that's running in behind him. It's like, oh, come on, Anthony, man! Like you are left back. Get the bloody job done. And I think we can call it objectively. He had a bit of a shocker. Of course, he gets his goal, and I was glad he got his goal at the end of the game. But I think you can see as well, Paul. You've probably seen it from the commentary booth. Sutton were playing 1-on-1 at the back, and it was a case of you could break their press. I could tell defensively they were found wanting. There was a couple of moments, and then what's the guy's name? Gray, the keeper. Yeah, Reed. Sorry, Reed. Yeah, when he played us out to obviously Hassan, and so I'll get on to Zach Hassan a little bit later on. If Dante had done that, he'd be getting absolute pelters. So thanks to him for helping us out. And the 4th goal was also really bad as well. But first half, I thought Sutton played some decent stuff. And then I don't know if you wanted to segue onto your summary of the second half, and I'll give my input.
Yeah, I mean, I do agree with you, Leo. What I found was with the problem with the first half was that when either team had the ball, they did okay with it. They just couldn't keep hold of it long enough. And I think you're right. Sutton did better with the ball when they had it. And everything was going through Lewis Simper. We know Lewis Simper from his time at the Stones, and I don't think he probably covered himself in a lot of glory when he was on loan to us from Cambridge United. And he's certainly improved as a footballer since he left us. And everything was going down that right hand side with him and his fullback that was overlapping. And it seemed really strange, and we can then talk about it of how, yes, Wealdstone upped it. They were going down the hill. They did have the wind holding the ball up for them. But Sutton didn't then sort of use Simper like they did in the first half, and we exploited their vulnerabilities at the back, which I think you're right, Leo. That 1-on-1. I mean, they're all like 6'3", and I think they turned like bloody cruise ships, didn't they? They would just, and we just did everything right in the second half that we didn't do in the first half.
Yeah, we would get loads of joy just putting the ball over the top, down between because they had 3 centre backs and in between the sides of those 3 centre backs. And Don Hutchinson, when he came on, was getting a lot of joy. Of course, Hassan was getting a lot of joy as well. And we, like I say, because they've got the turning speed of an oil tanker. Yeah, we were getting loads of joy. And of course, when you get a team running backwards, they then can't get themselves set up defensively, and that's where you then do expose frailties in their defence. Sutton need to sort that out because for all of the decent stuff they did in the first half, and I think they're tired as well. They couldn't sustain the press, a bit like ourselves at York. But they've got to sort that out because if they don't, they are in deep trouble. I must say, on the last cast, I was a little bit critical of Dante, and I was very critical of Zach Hassan. I said he's not good enough for step 1. So I'm hoping both listened and said I'm not copping that because fair play to them. They were both absolutely brilliant on Saturday. Dante kept us in it with 2 or 3 big saves in the first half, and then a second half, that one where it should have been 3-3, where he's somehow kind of like underneath his backside and then bounced onto the crossbar. He kept us in it. If he got man of the match, I'd have been okay with that. Hassan, geez, where did that come from?
He was a threat every time he got the ball. I mean, 3 assists,
he
1
was
goal.
He was happy to the half turns, running people. Yeah, he was getting loads of joins. Nice assist through to Obiero for the first goal. Lovely finish for the second. I mean, that technique is excellent. Because we were having a chat after the game. A few other people were saying, if that was me through on goal, I mean, I'm not a striker anyway, but if that was me through on goal with that chance on a half volley, I'd have either air shot it, skimmed it to the side, or just hit it out of the ground. So the fact he was able to get it low enough but past the keeper into the top corner, very impressive. His set pieces, he scored twice, hasn't he, from direct corners in the National League Cup, and that's one thing I did say. I said he's got a good cross on him, and he does get crosses in early, so it was a good corner. And then obviously sets up Georgie for the 4th. There was that bit of play, wasn't there? Sorry, Paul, I'm totally going on. I'm digressing here, but there was that bit where him and Obiero, I think they linked the ball up, didn't they? It was like a one touch.
1-2,
1-2. He's getting played through, and of course he does that little shimmy to get past the defender, and you think he's through, he's on goal. And I've got to say, whoever that Sutton defender was, he absolutely, I won't swear, but fantastic tackle, because I was
brilliant
thinking,
tackle. Brilliant tackle.
Yeah. Where did that come from?
I mean, he was on for his hat trick. He'd sent half of the Sutton defence down Rice High Street, and just I mean, he even did get his shot away, and it was blocked, wasn't it? And listen, he just was a man possessed. I'm happy for him, of course. I want him to prove me wrong. Of course, yeah, and the question will now be, and I suppose this will be so for StonesCast in the future if Zach Hassan's involved, is he an impact player? Is he a player to start? Is he a player that will be effective against those teams that are probably of lesser ability or less organised, like Sutton were, compared to the likes of York, Rochdale, Forest Green? I think the acid test is he's got to follow that up with another good performance if he's given the opportunity. Yes, he was sub. He came on early, didn't he? So, I would like to think he'd get given his opportunity after that performance at the weekend. I had him, I was mentioned on commentary that I felt he was man of the match. Dante was excellent. There was other players that were excellent, but I just think, an impact from a player like him to get 3 assists and a goal, almost a 4th goal, threatening every time he got the ball. He was a real upside of that really good second half on Saturday. And I just hope, that Southend on Saturday again is another great opportunity for him in front, hopefully a big crowd. And then you going into 2 winnable games, potentially at Yeovil and Braintree, that he might be a difference like he was on Saturday. So, a good second half performance. Dave, it was unfortunate you saw it. Alex, well, you're obviously going off coining it being a referee, so we can't really say much. You come when you can, Alex, and enjoy the Stones because they were good. But
another little word. One thing I would say is that based off the highlights, there was a few times he's definitely a more kind of advanced winger and I'd like to see because we writ him off before the game because he put something about the Ballers League saying that the club didn't wouldn't let him play, and it may have been Leo, but I don't want to put words in Leo's mouth, or potentially someone else in the chat just said get rid. But you know, he's shown what he can do. I think he's one of them where you just got to let him play with freedom, not in the kind of certain role that he's got to do that and he's got to do that. Just let him play football, see what he can do. More up the pitch, definitely, because there was a few times, especially on the highlights, breaking down the right, he was putting in challenges that, you know, I've seen on the Sunday pitches in Kent. So as high up the field as possible, but he's obviously got quality. It's just a matter of, you know, at National League standards, you've got to have quality, but you've got to have more as well. I'm pretty sure, Leo, you said on the cast previous that you didn't think he was a National League player.
I say that.
And I think it's still a valid point. He's still got a lot to prove. So it's just a case of giving him that chance, really, giving him that opportunity. And I think the best you can do that is giving him as much freedom as possible to play his best football.
Could he potentially be the Alarakia, Reece Brown type footballer that we kind of have asked for since those guys have gone, and turn the ball from defence to attack and be that one that puts defenders on the back foot? Because I think we've constantly sort of clamoured for that type of footballer, and he certainly showed that on Saturday. Do you think that's something that may be the part he plays for us for the rest of the season?
I think you got to have as I just said, you got to have the quality, but quality will only get you so far. Like, you're talking about X factor players like Taryn, like Alex Freed. They've got the quality, but then in games where we're behind or they're not able to have as much freedom, they're still able to change their game a bit, and they're able to adapt and play different roles of what they needed, and change the game for us. I'm still not convinced that we have someone who can do that, along with a kind of a goal scorer. So I still think that we need to go looking for that attacking player who, if we're 3-0 down, he's still going to get one. He's going to get a goal that, we'll lose 3-1. But it's about having that player that will score, and we can rely on him to score when the team needs it, and bring that give the rest of the team that confidence, really.
That's fair enough. So we go into Saturday off the back of a good National League win, some positives from here and there from the York and Nottingham Forest games. We turn our attention to the FA Cup on Saturday, first round proper. Mouthwatering tie was expected when the balls were thrown into that pot, and we got probably what we wanted, a home draw against someone that we probably wouldn't have wanted, is in likes of Southend, who currently are sitting towards the top end of the National League. What are we excited? I know this has been discussed. Are we excited for Saturday? Do we feel that there's a win in there, having beaten them at the Vale early in the season, Dave? Or are you going into it with a little bit of trepidation that, you know, our cup run could end on the weekend?
I think that I'm quite positive about it. A couple of reasons for that is, you know, ended the last game in really good form, scored 4 goals, was playing. I mean, as I say, they were playing some really nice one-touch football towards the end of that second half. I hark back to the game we played against them earlier in the season, when we beat them 3-2. I actually thought we were a better side than them on that night, And, it may be that, since then they may have, reorganised, regrouped, or brought in another couple of players. I just thought on the night we kind of just had a little bit more than they did. We were a bit more physical, and a lot more second ball and just challenges. And I don't know. And I don't. There's another side to it. Is how much of their mind is going to be on the cup? I mean, are they thinking they want to go up? Are they just is it really important for them to get out of this league? Does the manager think that the league is far more important than the FA Cup to him, or to the future of the team? I think we're in a really good position because to be honest, they will be favourites. They'll be favourites to win the game. Team with a much bigger budget. They're further up the league. They're going to be bringing over 1,000 fans. I fancy us. I fancy us to win. I don't think that's. I mean, they are a good. They're in the top end of the table, but I just think from the last time I saw them match up to us, I didn't think that they were that great on that occasion. I mean, the only 2 goals they scored were goalkeeping errors, and so yeah, I'm quite optimistic. I think. I mean, you never know with cup ties. That's the beauty of it, isn't it? It's all over in one afternoon as well. And I think that we've got quite a lot of attacking talent now. I think, I look at Chiendu down the left when he, we burst past that defender. He's done that a few times this season. And, I think he had a really good game against him last time, if I remember, against Southend. And, we've got pace, power. And I kind of think that I think we might nick it on Saturday, yeah.
I love the positivity, Dave. Love the positive. Leo, I don't know how you feel about it, but do you, from a Southend perspective, can they play or take us for granted, or play as badly or take us as much for granted as they did when they came to the Vale a few weeks ago?
I don't think they'll take us for granted. I don't think they did in the league fixture. They can certainly play as bad again as they did in that Tuesday night game, because performances so often they're just complete contrasts, aren't they, from one game to another. Interesting, Dave, you mentioned about Chinedu. Have we been given any assurances from Orient that he can play for us? Because I suspect they probably don't want him to be cup tied in case they get through to the third rounds.
Good point.
Just in case they need him. I'm with you, Dave. So that cross against Sutton, he did the same thing for Obiera's goal at Boston. When he gets past the guy, he's actually got a wicked cross on him. I'll give him that. But yeah, we've got them through till January, so that's the reason why I'm saying it, because it ends around about the same time as the third round of the FA Cup, and if Orient are in it, then they may want to have him available should they need to. On the game itself, I'm glad we're at home. Hopefully we can win this slope, because win the toss and go down the slope in the second half. I always think that's really important for us in terms of like getting the drive of the supporters. And I think I said on the last cast, I said, let's see how Southend do in the next few games, because if they're in the playoffs, and yeah, their eyes may be off the cup. Now I think back on that and reflection, I think that was actually a really dumb statement. It's a Saturday game. They've won the last three Southends. They're going to want to keep that momentum going. They know it's a sold out away end, so there's no way Kevin Maher's going to put a fringe side out. He's going to put their first team out. He'll probably want to avenge what happens, at the start of September. But we know on a day we can beat anyone in our league at the Vale. So I don't see. I'm more glass half full on this than I would be glass half empty. And I guess probably being a Wilson supporter, you should always be more pessimistic. But the fact that it's going to be done in 90 minutes, it's going to be done on the day. Why not? We can beat them, absolutely.
Yeah, and I think I agree. You're kicking down the hill away from their 1,000-odd fans that they're going to have. Staying in the game in the first half like we always seem to have to, rather than be sort of maybe up comfortably and then see how the second half takes us. And it will be on their minds, won't it, in relation to how they played in September and how we out-muscled them and sort of just gave them a really, really good football match. And I don't suppose they will play as indifferently as that, but I think we'll know that as well. Sam Cox isn't naive enough to think that that's not going to happen. So, yeah, a really interesting tie, a good one, because two teams that are in a fair, decent bit of form, realistically over the last sort of 5 or 6 games. So, Alex, I don't know how you feel about it. Are you as positive as Dave and Leo? And I think I'll go with them. I think we've got a more than fair chance of winning the game.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, I haven't seen them since, but I was at that Tuesday night game that we played, and I agree with Dave. I think both of their goals were lucky. They put a hell of a lot of pressure on, in which a lot of people forget that Dante actually saved us quite a bit in that game as well. There was a few saves that he made into added time, including in normal time, where he's really got us out of it. So you can look at them 2 mistakes, but then you've got to look at the stuff he's done well too. But yeah, 2 mistakes for their goal. Didn't think they were great. I think we deserved to win. I always fancy us at home against anyone, especially going downhill. And we got a good side. Like we're 11th in the table. We can't underestimate ourselves. I think people were talking about it like, we're National League South and South End of the league above. There's only a few places between us. There's not much in it at all. We're a good side. We're at home. I think that we should be confident. I don't see why we shouldn't be favourites. I understand that Southend are in good form, and we're in not so great form, but we're coming off the back of a home win, going into Saturday. So I think we will win, which I know will raise a few eyebrows, but it's a bit unfortunate that we will win, because that will mean that if we do win, then Truro away will be moved to a Tuesday night. And I'll still go, but I'd rather go to Truro on a Saturday than a Tuesday night. I don't know if Neil Rounds is flying his plane down there again, or what travel arrangements are going to be made. But this is the first time in so many years that I'm not going to the game itself, of course, but even if I'm not going, I'm still nervous about the result. I always want us to win, but for the first time, it's kind of a win-win situation, really, for me. If we win, fantastic. We're into the second round, more money, bigger tie. But if we lose, then one, we can focus on the league, and 2, we don't have to go to Truro on a Tuesday night.
I think as well, what we said when that draw got made, I think there was a collective sigh, wasn't there, from both sets of supporters of, oh right, that's who we got. Like mouth-watering sighs, you said, Paul, what we could have had. Here's what you could have won. But the fact that Southend fans were just as pessimistic, or just as downbeat about the draw as we were, clearly they're like, well, geez, this is going to be tough. It's away from home. We got beat there a couple of months ago. I can't see anything in sight of the pitch when you've got 1,000 away fans in there, and I've seen all the moaning about that. It's already started, but fair play to them for selling out the away end. I'll give them props for that. I think just gauging that reaction at the time, they're killer.
Well, the only good thing to come out of that draw is that it was a home draw, right? I mean, watching the draw, you either wanted one end of the spectrum. You either wanted Malden and Tiptree at home, or you wanted Port Vale away, or you wanted Cardiff away, you wanted Bradford away, Barnsley away. It's one of the two, and we got pretty much slap bang in the middle, just towards the right a bit, that we got a home tie. But I mean, it was just, if we got Southend away, I mean that would have been just.
Also, we haven't touched on this, have we? I think your favourite keeper might be starting on Saturday.
Yes. I would like to touch on this. Shouting out all that were there. So Raj, Steve, River, Luca, Kilroy, East, also known as Cameron, Rio, Matthew. Obviously, after celebrating that huge 3-2 win against Southend, as the players came out about an hour and a half later, by the way, we thought we'd have a little joke with them, let them know that EFL's just around the corner. which Nick Hayes wasn't happy about. He wasn't happy about it at all, and maybe from his time at Barnet, he's held some grudges, but he wasn't happy. Offering us all out for a fight, having to be held back by his own fans. So yeah, I mean, in that sense, I'm gutted that I'm not there but I know that I know that Luca and the others will do Willstone proud and not let a single second go by without letting Nick know that he's offering out people half his age. So I'm looking forward to seeing the videos of that, and looking forward to seeing if Wayne Andrews shows face after offering me out. So so there's a lot of tension. This you could consider this a feisty fixture.
There's also a common denominator here, Alex, and I think that's you. So
yeah, potentially, you know, we'd all have a drink.
It's probably good that you're not there, you know, and I would probably like to say on behalf of the StonesCast that we don't condone any behaviour as such as Alex has just described there.
Of course not. You know, and if my worker listens to this, then you know that it's all for show. It's all for the podcast.
It's all allegations.
It's all allegations.
You made it all up,
and I'd like to see some proof of that before.
I hope for your sake and your rowdy mob of mates that Nick Hayes doesn't have the last laugh on Saturday and ends up not just offering you out, but telling you what the score was, and they trot off to the EFL for the next round. But listen, we do have to come to a close very shortly, and I think there's a couple more games, Yeovil and Braintree, to discuss. We'll come off the back of a win against Southend if it's anything to do with us for predicting the result. Nick Hayes will end up being arrested by the football spotter officers there for offering out teenagers. And we will go down to Hewish Park on a Tuesday night to play Yeovil, who are in the bottom half, following Braintree, who are in the bottom four. So on paper, winnable matches like it was against Sutton. You know, guys, what are your thoughts with just those last two games once the FA Cup has sort of finished for another week?
Well, just to mention Yeovil, because I'm actually going to that one for once.
There's some bloke you want to fight, Alex?
Well, I hope it's not a repeat of Yeovil. I mean, the first time round, obviously everyone knows the story. So no, I'll have my water with me to keep me level, hopefully. So we've had quite not bad record. Obviously, winning 2-1 away there last season. They've obviously had their trouble off the pitch, as well as on it as well. They've not been great at all. I think a run of poor results at the start of the season. So I'm going there very, very confident that we should at least get something. Obviously taking a point, but I'd expect at least a point there. They're not a great side. We're in the position we are in for a reason. So yeah, confident that we can get a win there. Hopefully just replicating last year, 3 points, easy. Everyone goes home happy.
Yeah, I mean, and Leon Dow, don't you know, Yeovil had a little bit of a new manager bounce when Richard Dryden took over from Mark Cooper, but that sort of dissipated slightly, and they haven't won in the last three. They've lost to Boreham Wood, Rochdale, and Carlisle. Admittedly, 3 really tough games. So, you know, we're going up against a wounded animal. Braintree, we know are what they are. They're not in great form themselves in the bottom 4. So, you know, something we've got to seize on.
Yeah, I mean, they're 2 games that you fancy getting something out of. Hard to, you know, obviously the cup tie Saturday, so you don't know who'll be available for those games. But excuse me, they're both games that you'd feel optimistic about getting something from. I just, you know, I'd just like to see us keep picking up the points, and you know, not necessarily wins, but if you know, picking up the points just keeps that positive momentum going. So yeah, you know, let's hope we can get something from those games.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm missing
harder. Yeah, it's
Sorry?
a harder assignment, isn't it, Leo? Hard get Hewish Park on a Tuesday night, rather than the Vale against Braintree on a Saturday. So would you be optimistically looking at 6 points, or would you be pragmatically looking at maybe 4 points out of the 2 games?
We're saying if I think we're getting 6 points, I'm not pragmatic.
Oh, you think? Oh, there you go. No, well,
There you go.
yeah,
We can do it, absolutely. What I would say about Yeovil is, Tuesday night down there. I mean, they actually drew against Carlisle, but just super erratic. Like I say, they lost to Hemel in the FA Cup. So you'd think, well, if you're losing to a side in the league below, you're getting tonked at home by Bournemouth Woods, and then Rochdale turned them over fairly comfortably as well. I think what doesn't help them is I've seen a couple of things online where their supporters, some of them are starting to turn against their new that ownership that came in. Was it start of this season?
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe again, off the field matters at Yeovil have impacting what's happening on the pitch. I mean, they had the whole fiasco with Danny Webb, didn't they? For like a week or two, if that, where he was manager, and then realised, hang on a minute, the commute from Chesterfield's a bit too far to Yeovil. I can't do it. And then Richard Jordan, like I say, they haven't won in quite some time now, have they? So there's got to be some confidence that we'll get something out of that game. Like I say, unfortunately, I can't make it. I've got work commitments, so it's the first game I'm going to be missing in quite some time. But I guess it depends what happens on Saturday. What are the bodies looking like? We're looking a little bit frail defensively, with Cookie probably going to be injured for the next few weeks. So what's it? And then Ciencia is out now, isn't he? He's not going to be back anytime soon. Just the way he trundled off on Saturday. So it could be a bit of the walking wounded, which may play into Yeovil's hands. And then Braintree, unfortunately for them, we tipped them in the National League preview to go down. And Steve Pitt's doing a pretty good job, all things considering. But their overspending last year is having a real impact on them this season, because I think on Saturday they could only list 5 substitutes. They haven't got 7 substitutes to list, and they're having to play the same players continuously in the league fixtures in the National League Cup. And then, when you've got old players in there like John Akinde, no way is that sustainable. We did the double on them last year. We should be looking to beat them at the Vale on the 8th. So, I probably, I'll say this now, probably would take 4 points. But there is absolutely no reason why we cannot get 6.
No, I completely agree. And I think you're right. Yes, okay, we might start to look, are we going to start getting stretched a little bit with the squad members? I know Daniel Nkrumah was training on the pitch before the game on Saturday, so hopefully he's not far away. And there was a couple that weren't involved, including the new lad from Morecambe, Aguiman. So I think we're not in a bad place, but the exertions of the FA Cup on Saturday could possibly not help. Depends how it goes, and then a tough trip down to the Somerset before we meet Braintree. But I'm with you, Leo. I think we can confidently look at it and say, look, there's 6 points up for grab. We should be taking all 6 without a shadow of a doubt. There's tougher assignments on the horizon, so whilst we can, let's add those points to the board. The goals are being shared around, which is a good thing. I think we're generally in a good place, and long may that continue, and hopefully we'll get a really confidence boosting win on Saturday, and then we might get that plumb tie in the second round of the FA Cup that we all have something to look forward to, and then have to watch Alex try and fight his way down to Truro on a Tuesday night, which will be quite good fun. So lots of positives after a few sort of moans and groans and sort of gripes we had at the beginning of the podcast. But chaps, thank you very much for your attendance. It's gone on a little bit longer than we expected, but there were some good topics to talk about. Thank you very much to Roll Feasts, proudly sponsoring us. Please support the football club. We have a club shop. We got an eBay account that the supporters club run. There is no coaches coming up for games currently, but please look out for any of those that are advertised. There should be some with the fixtures coming up in the next couple of months running up to Christmas. So please do support those. Please get down to the Vale. Understand that the ticket sales for Saturday are looking a little bit slow, but we still got a couple more days until the fixture. But let's try and match the 1,000 fans that Southend are bringing and have to sort of squeeze into the Modu end and the turret end of the ground. And chaps, thanks very much for your positivity around the football club and the football team. Let's hope that lease gets signed at some point in 2025 and we can go into 2026 at the very least looking positively with investment and new stadium on the horizon and sitting comfortably mid-table. But for now, see those that can go on Saturday. See you Saturday. If not, we'll see you Tuesday, Alex. Stay out of trouble, Alex. Don't get in the any scraps.
I don't know where this reputation's coming from. I don't know if Warwick's listening. I'm not the I'm not the man that I'm being painted out to be. I promise.
We'll have to bring a cardboard cutout of you to the cup tie.
yeah.
You'd be on the goal. Waving the goal.
Put it at the back with the drum. Put it at the back with the drum.
Oh, the drum, yeah, brilliant. But yes, thank you very much to Roll Feast. Please like, please subscribe, please tell others about the Wheelstone podcast at StonesCast 85. And for now, and until next time, thank you very much, and up the Stones.
Up the Stones.
Up the Stones.
Up the Stones.
Cool.